It'd be echoing, so I'm gonna turn that off. Alright, there we go. So, welcome. This is another bedtime story by Dylan. The Sword and the Stone, a King Arthur legend of a sword story. Long ago in England, a wise and just king ruled the land. His name was King Uther. Times were good and people lived well. King Uther wanted a magician at court, and so he chose the famous Merlin the magician. Merlin could see into the future, and he knew those good days were not going to last. King Uther and Queen Guinevere had a child, a baby son, at a castle party for royal birth. Merlin the magician took the king aside. He said, "Sire, hold on, I'm sorry. Sire, there is something you must know. Soon a great darkness will fall over this land. Your child is in great danger. Let me take the baby far away. I will be sure he stays safe." "Merlin," said the king in surprise, "you are a great magician, and you my friend. But there's no way we would let anyone take our child away." Okay. Sadly, soon after the child's birth, the queen died. Not long after, King Uther was killed in battle. That very night, Merlin swept into the castle and took the child. The next morning, the royal nurse went to the nursery. Alas, an empty crib. In fear of the nurse, the nobles and servants looked everywhere, but the baby was gone. For years, there was no king to sit on the throne, no king to set the laws. Men of high rank fought each other to be king. Darkness fell over the land. Robbers and bands of wild men ruled the streets of London. Evil men broke into houses and took what they wanted. Travelers on the roads were jumped and robbed. The people of England lived in fear. Yet far away there was a quiet place. A good knight, Sir Ector, lived in peace with his two sons. His first son was named Kay. His younger son, Arthur, had been adopted as a baby. Years before, a stranger had come to Sir Ector with a baby. He asked if Sir Ector would raise the child. The old knight took the baby in his arms, glad for a second child. He named the baby Arthur and raised the child on his own. When Arthur was 10 years old, the same stranger returned to Sir Ector's house. He could read and write, and so Sir Ector hired him to teach his two sons. Kay could not sit still for the lessons, and he stopped coming. But Arthur listened with wide eyes. He learned everything. I bet you have guessed by now who the stranger was. None other than Merlin the magician. At the end of the day, when Arthur finished his chores, it was time for some lessons. Merlin would sit with Arthur for hours and teach him about the world. Arthur was a thin lad, not strong like his big brother Kay. Merlin said not to worry about that. He said what mattered most is to have a heart that was big and strong. Merlin saw how the birds, foxes, and deer followed Arthur. He could see the boy had a very strong and big heart. By the time Arthur was 16, his brother Kay had become a knight. He was now called Sir Kay. Arthur loved nothing more than to serve his brother as a squire. He kept great care of his brother's tunic and helmet, his spears and lances. One day at lesson time, Merlin looked away. He stood up. "What is it?" said Arthur. "The people need hope," said Merlin. "Arthur, there is something I must do. I must go now." That night, when the night time was at its most dark, Merlin the magician came to London's market square. He stood in the middle of the square. He held both arms high. He pointed his wand to the stars. The next morning at dawn, people started to arrive at the market. There in front of them was something most odd. A block of white marble stood in the middle of the town square. Resting on the block was a giant stone, the size of a very large rock. At the very top of the stone there was a golden sword handle, and a few inches from the blade shining in the sun. Yet this was most odd. The rest of the blade was buried deep into the stone. None of this was there the day before. What's more, these words could be seen at the top of the blade. "Whoever pulls out this sword from the stone is the true King of England." As soon as the crowd knew about the message, men jumped up to that white marble block. One after another, they gave the sword a yank. Each tried and tried, but the sword stuck fast. It would not move. One said in gloom, "There's no man alive who could pull out that sword." "We'll see about that," said a voice in the crowd. The Duke of Cornwall, dressed in silks and ribbons, stepped to the white marble block. "Hear ye, hear ye," he said. "I call for the tournament to be held 1 month from today. Knights from anywhere and everywhere in England are invited to come. There will be contests and prizes, a great feast for all." The Duke said to his wife, the Duchess, "If I know men, this tournament will draw the strongest, finest knights in all of England." Said the Duchess, "Good idea, my dear. All we need is one knight who is so strong he can pull that sword from the stone. Then we will have a king again, at last." The people danced and cheered. At last there was something to feel happy about. News of the tournament traveled fast from castle to village to every far corner of the land. At last, word got to the faraway home of Sir Ector. Sir Kay heard the news when he was polishing his helmet. "Arthur," he called out. Arthur was once again by the woods, feeding birds from his hand. He set down a pile of seeds for the birds and a pile for the squirrels. Then he ran fast to see his brother. "There you are," said Kay. "There will be a tournament in London. We must set out at once." What great news! Arthur had never been more than a few miles at home. He would beat the best squire ever for his brother. Arthur ran back to the house. In the courtyard, his father was getting the horses ready. Sir Ector and his 2 sons rode through London on their way to the tournament. Riding through the market square, something shiny glinted in the sun. "That sword looks like it goes straight into that stone," said Arthur. "But how could that be? That's impossible. But why were the guards standing all around it?" The father and his 2 sons reached the tournament. Sir Kay ran off to get in line to register. Sir Arthur greeted many old friends, dukes, earls, barons, counts, and countesses. Arthur sat in their tent, polishing his brother's helmet until it shone bright. A bugle sounded. Tournament was about to begin. "Get my sword," demanded Kay. "Right away," said Arthur. "But where is it?" Arthur looked around in panic. Kay's spear, battle axe, and dagger are right where they should be, but no sword. "Kay," he said, "how about a battle axe?" "Arthur, my sword." "Yes, of course," said Arthur, "but just a moment." "Be quick about it," said Kay. Arthur ran back to the tent. Maybe he had left Kay's sword there. He searched through a bag of armor and weapons. How could he let such a thing happen? Then he had an idea. Very fast, Arthur rode back to the market square. The guards were not there anymore. They must have been all at the tournament. Arthur stepped up to the marble block. "Let's see if I can get this sword unstuck." He took hold of the handle of the sword. He moved the sword a bit. "Hey," he said, "it's looser than I thought." With one big tug, the sword slid out. Arthur was thrown back, but the sword was safe in his hands. "I'll be sure to bring this right back." He raced to where his brother was waiting. "Here it is," he said, handing the sword to his brother. Kay took one look. "Oh," he said in surprise. "What is it?" said Arthur, but his brother was gone. Soon after, he heard his brother's voice outside the tent. "Father, I have something to show you." Kay and his father stepped inside the tent. "Look," said Kay. He pointed to the sword. Sir Ector stared. His face turned white. "Kay," said the father, facing his oldest son, "where did you get the sword?" "It's mine," said Kay, holding it close to him. "I have it now." "Kay," said the father again in a stern voice, "I will ask you one more time. Where did you get this sword?" The young knight's head dropped down. "From Arthur," he said. "He lost my sword. Somehow we got this one." "Arthur?" The father turned to his younger son. "How is it that you came by this sword?" "I'm sorry," said Arthur. "Father, I will put it back right away. I only meant to borrow it when I pulled it from the stone." "You must take us to where you found the sword. At once." The three of them rushed over to the market square. Arthur climbed the marble block. "It came from here," he said. He lifted his sword over his head. Then he dropped the blade back into the stone. "Now it's back." "Hey," said Sir Kay, "I still need a sword." He jumped onto the marble block. Grabbing the hilt of the sword, he pulled and pulled, but did not move. Kay shouted to Arthur, "What did you do to it?" "Nothing," said the lad. "You must have done something," yelled Sir Kay. "Hush, both of you," said the father. "It is better that no one sees or hears us." But it was too late. A crowd had already started to form. "Hey, did you pull that sword out of that stone?" called one. "Yes," said Arthur, "I did." "Do it again," called another from the crowd. "Yeah, let's see." Arthur put his hands around the golden handle. With one tug, the blade slid out. "Who are you?" called another voice. "What's your name?" "Arthur," said the lad. "Wait a minute. Put that sword back." A tall knight pushed forward from the crowd. Anyone can pull it out once it's been pulled. Go ahead, put it back, son, said a voice. It was the Duke of Cornwall, the one who'd called for the tournament. All right, said Arthur. He slipped the blade back in the stone with ease. Let me hat it now, said the tall knight. He jumped and grabbed the handle of the sword, but pull and tug as he might, the sword would not move. Not even a bit. Another knight tried, then another, but no one could remove the sword. Some waited, thinking the longer they pulled the sword, the looser it would get, but each man took their turn. The sword did not move for them. Let the lad try now, said the Duke of Cornwall. Arthur, go ahead. Arthur stepped to the stone again. In one motion he freed the sword. This time he held it high over his head. The blade flashed in the sun. Amazed, the crowd did not know what to think. One called out at last, He must be our new king. We have a new king, called another. At last. Stop, shouted the tall knight. Do you really think the skinny boy could rule over all of us? Yes, said a voice. All eyes turned around. It was Merlin the magician. I know this boy. I know his heart. There is no one in England who has a heart bigger and stronger than his. The sword has told us that this young man is the next king of England, and there is something else. This lad, said Merlin, pointing to Arthur, is the true child of King Uther. He is the missing baby. Cheers began to ring out. Hail, King Arthur, called some from the crowd. Sir Ector fell to his knees, then Sir Kay, one after another. The crowd fell to their knees. All cheered. At last the king has been chosen. A fresh young king, a new day for England. The end. So, think and share. Comment what you think. What do you think the story is trying to show you? See what the other kids say after the comment box. Till then. Big hearts need big fart wall. Got him. Alright, good night everyone.